Hello ladies and gentlemen, it is currently Sunday, November 25th, 2012, and this is Day 9 Daily number 524, where we learn to be a better gamer. Very excited because tomorrow's daily is 525, which, as you'll note, is a square number. No, 625 is a square number. Oh my god, I want to restart. Oh my god, I want to cancel. I want to cancel the start to the daily. Can we edit that out? Oh my god, that was so embarrassing. I said it and I was like, 525 is not, it's not square. Did I? And then I actually opened up a calculator on my computer and I checked. Woo! Alright, well, we're gonna get through this. Let's get through this daily. For any of you who are, of course, first-timers to the daily, or more importantly, the StarCraft community, welcome. We're thrilled to have you because this game kicks ass. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving break where you stuffed your face with turkey even if you don't live in America, where no one really knows why we have Thanksgiving other than Black Friday, and if you're a nerd, Cyber Monday. If anyone doesn't know in the chat what Cyber Monday is, then make sure you hop on the internet then. In today's daily, we're going to be looking at an epic Zerg vs. Zerg between evil geniuses IdrA and RorO, who, for some reason, I'm blanking on his pro team. Isn't he Woongjin? I think so. Ugh. Something like that. Something like that. RorO is an extremely talented Zerg player in Brood War that moved over to StarCraft 2. IdrA is an extremely talented Terran player in Brood War that moved over to Zerg in StarCraft 2. And this was a Zerg vs. Zerg that they played at the World Championship Series, BattleNet World Championship, which is the culmination of the World Championship Series, and this was in the Group of Death, where IdrA was up against RorO, Stefano, and Hero. So things were looking very bad for IdrA. I think most people assumed that he would get dead last in his group, and instead he did the opposite. He got first place. Oh! And in this daily, we're going to get the chance to look at a Zerg vs. Zerg of his against RorO, where we will see him win with itty-bitty steps. And in fact, if I had to title the daily something, which I did, I would title it Winning with Itty-Bitty Steps. Because so often in StarCraft 2, it feels like you win with a play. Like an Immortal Sentry push, which I did a daily on beforehand. Or you do a Hellion drop in the main base and you kill off a bunch of workers, and from that moment on, you've won. You're just waiting for him to finally fall apart. But very often, if you're playing against a solid player, there's no moment where you just just crush him. You have to start chipping away at him, and this especially is frequent in the mirror matchups, when it's unclear where our edge is. Sure, if he goes Mutalisks and we go roach+infestor, it can be a little clear because at least there's differences in what we're doing. But what if we're both going roach+infestor hydra? What then, Day 9? That's what we're doing today. So we're going to hop into that game right after I make any announcement. Is there any announcement? Next Sunday will be subscriber Mana Battles. And I would love it if you joined in. For any of you who are unfamiliar, the subscriber program at Day 9 TV is the voluntary $5 a month subscription that, if you would like, you may subscribe to the daily and get no ads and get to play in the Mana Battles and get a really sweet 9 logo next to your name in chat. The daily will always be free, so hope you enjoy all the free content. So this is a way for me to give you the opportunity to give money, but you totally don't have to. If you would like to just hang out and view, I encourage you to do so. Also, I apologize for the police that are very loud in this neighborhood. So the subscriber Mana Battles will be next Sunday, and I'm really thrilled. Full week's worth of dailies. Haven't had that in a long time. Long time! Not in November at all. So let's go ahead and hop to it with this game of IdrA versus RorO. Again, the thing we want to emphasize is winning in little itty-bitty, tiny-teeny, minute steps. Oh, holy shit! There's a very important thing I needed to note. It's going to be about winning in little itty-bitty chunks. So there's something that a lot of commentators, a lot of pros have talked about in different ways, but it's that it's more important to learn how to avoid losing an advantage than it is to try to gain a huge advantage. It's so easy to get addicted to the big plays, or hell, just attacking. I think I'm in the lead, let me attack. But if you think you're in the lead, what you should more so do is focus on not giving up the lead. And we're going to see IdrA do a lot of instances of that throughout the game. So, once upon a time, a wild IdrA spawned in the bottom left corner of Cloud Kingdom. And in the top right, we had RorO, the Zerg player. Again, I'm pretty sure from Woongjin Stars. So on this map, Cloud Kingdom, I think that there's a variety of builds that are very, very acceptable on this map. Actually, this is probably one of the most all the openings work type of maps. Any early pool aggression works nicely because you only have one possible start location for your opponent. So we always know we're going to be doing at least some damage to him early on. There's the normal builds, hatch first, pool first into hatch, which we're going to see both these players do this game. You can even do this cool 12 geyser 11 pool, which is a way to get ultra fast Zergling speed and is really good for killing expos off. And oh, that's right, Soul Key is from Woongjin. Samsung Khan is the team that RorO's from. Thank you, guys. So IdrA is going to be going for pool first, and we're going to see RorO go for hatch first, and then follow it up with some pool and gas type of business. Gas first to be able to get the Zergling speed a little earlier, but then the pool. So very often players will assert that, or I should say, very often your average bear will say, well, if he expanded earlier, he will have more larva, period. And we're going to see that that's not necessarily the case. This game is actually an extremely nice example for the case that if you go for this 14 pool and then hatch, you're not actually that far behind in the larva front. So for instance, we see this queen come out and both players positioning their overlords to spot the Zerglings, but the thing I really want to focus on is, let me just speed this up just to note. So IdrA will start his second queen the same time that RorO starts his 2 queens. So what does that mean? IdrA will begin and inject with this queen, end and inject with this queen, at the same time that RorO begins his first 2 injects. So in other words, at this point in time, IdrA is ahead by 1 larva inject. However, IdrA has lost a little bit of time given this set of larvae that you gain by building this early hatch. So it ends up being quite balanced. IdrA will actually have slightly more larvae and more larvae spent, just a little bit ahead of his opponent, but RorO does have the edge of this earlier gas and the reassurance that he can rely on that 2 queen defense. So, yeah. I think nothing too exceptional is going on right now. Again, I want you to note that in terms of the units tab, we're seeing them very even in every aspect. However, IdrA is able to produce 5 drones, whereas RorO is producing 1, because IdrA was ahead on this 1 larva inject. Now, if your opponent goes hatch and then straight pool, you kind of alternate who has the lead in that inject production. But, you know, if he's going gas, then pool. Ha! So that's all pretty technical, but, you know, just to use as an example. So, IdrA does the expected move. He's going to open up with the kind of blind, just spine crawler baneling nest. This is all kind of standard stuff, and I will emphasize all this pretty standard stuff for the first half of the game, because why not? RorO, though, interestingly, is just rallying all the Zerglings he produces straight out. And all these early timings that RorO are going to do rely on a huge swell from one set of injects. So this is one thing that is quite nice about opening up with this hatch first, double queen build. IdrA is going to be making just enough banelings to get by. And also one of the reasons why I say that Cloud Kingdom is one of the most every possible build friendly map. This map has really close distances from natural to natural. So this gives the opponent very, very little time. to react. So this is actually quite scary. So how does RorO end up performing this attack? Well, it's pretty simple. You just barely start building some Zerglings before your first big inject comes off, and then the remaining injects. With this attack, you can then make a judgment call as to what to do. Generally, players will begin flooding drones in this circumstance, but you will see occasionally players wait a little bit just to sort of see what's up. Almost always generally drones, and these are just some standard micro battles. IdrA, I mean, this is hard to do, no doubt, but IdrA doing a nice job target firing these with the queens and the banelings. IdrA gets forced to make a good chunk of extra Zerglings, loses his queens, down to only one queen. So yeah, at this point in time, RorO has managed to leap quite a ways ahead, especially given that he was producing drones that whole time. And likewise, IdrA is going to do that standard counter attack. So I think by and large, we'd say that this is a fairly even game, with IdrA probably being a little bit behind. But given that IdrA has seen no counter-aggression, it's likely that RorO is going to be on the defensive, and I think that this is, becoming a very standard play now. Most players will instantly go lair, or as quickly as they can go lair. I think very commonly, especially what would happen like maybe 9 months ago or so, is that the player who suffered this sort of damage would snap back with a lot of Zerglings. Most players would say, well, gee, if I had to make Zerglings anyway, I may as well go for a very strong attack. They'd get deflected, and then afterwards they'd go lair. But you can pretty quickly just go straight for the lair. IdrA even going for a little dronage as well. And we just get to snap back at our opponent. Now, what's nice here is that, why are we going for the lair here instead of continuing to pressure? Because either our opponent got a little too greedy himself and went for a really, really, really fast lair, and we can punish him knowing he's going to be probably a little bit low on banelings. Or he's just going to build the baneling defense, and we can get the lead on the lair anyways. So IdrA is going for, he went for a double gas right when that attack began. So again, getting a little bit of a lead in that regard. Getting a third extractor, really getting the lead in that gas. And then Evo Chamber, and then quick lair. Pretty common. Both players are going at just about the same rate. And now we hit kind of like brownie time. This is the moment I actually think is really hard. Oh, I forgot Walking Dead is on right now. I always watch it on TiVo or DVR or whatever my regular TV allows me to do. I don't know what it's called nowadays, but thank God for recording. Yeah. So, to any of you who kindly decide to watch The Daily instead of Walking Dead, So, this is where I think the most number of mistakes can occur. I'm kind of the opinion that most people are pretty cool with the Ling-Baneling stuff at this point in time. Maybe there's a non-Zerg vs. Zerg player or non-Zerg vs. Zerg enthusiast watching who's like, oh, that's all pretty neat new stuff. But I think pretty much everyone knows how to get to like here, where they are both alive and getting some kind of tech up. And this is where I think mistakes happen by and large when players are not comfortable with either the slightest of advantages or literally no advantage. And did my encoder just turn off? Do you guys still see me? I just lost all the data that I had on my screen. It's reading all zeros. Wow. Apparently you fine folks see me. I guess I just have no more data anymore. So if it does crash in the future, I'll talk to myself for an hour. This is the moment in time where I feel like most of the mistakes occur, because it's uncomfortable to not have a lead and to not really see a way to get a lead. In the non-mirror matchups, especially, like in Terran vs. Zerg, if you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm ahead or behind, you can still just do your timing push at 2-2, and if it wins or loses, you're still just going to kind of try to do it again better next time, right? It's in these sorts of situations where, I don't know, do I go for a roach push, do I not, etc., where it's really uneasy. The correct decision, almost universally, is to go for the late game, just to let the game go on a little bit longer. So I like IdrA building his evolution chamber before the Roach Warren. I think that almost, just as a general rule of thumb, the evolution chamber should be made earlier than the Roach Warren, or at the very least, at the exact same time. And I also think, too, that this is a very easy and smart play. That, you know how a lot of people like taking thirds super mega hyper early, especially with like speed zerglings and mutalisks? I think that this play is so easy. Just getting your second gas, and more importantly your third gas, quite early. And then just going layer and fourth gas. You're just focusing on the gas units and the upgrades, and less on the fragile open expansion. This is a nice defensible position with a spine crawler. So I like that. But I'm actually going to come here to the IdrA cam for a little bit, and we're just going to look at some of the basic stuff that I like quite a bit. Having overlords everywhere, 2 over at this expansion. Not necessary to have 2, but certainly 2. What big play does IdrA go for? The Watchtower, and not really anything more. Once the layer's finished, just straight for what? The gas-based unit. This is such a comfortable, safe play. Hell, even if he is expanding, then you just join him in expanding and say, yeah, I'm going to have more infestors, and I'm going to get my roach upgrades going too, and I'm going to get my +2 attack upgrade started early too. And also this enables you to build the spore crawlers if he does go mutalisks. But, I mean, no matter what, infestors are just great units. They're very comfortable. Very solid little units. So, nice. IdrA decides to go here for an expansion. Ever so slight prep work. Building just 4 roaches. Not huge numbers of roaches. Just some. To be able to gear up to take the expansion. But there's a couple of key decisions here that I think are easy to botch. Really easy to mess up. I think one is to lose track of the banelings and just to end up with no banelings. Because, I mean, for defense early on, what's really going to threaten this? Will zerglings will speed roaches threaten this? I mean, probably not, because we're ahead in our layer tech. So we should probably at the very least be ahead in this speed upgrade. And if not, we're going to have the infestors there anyways, so slow roaches and infestors can defend us comfortably against speed roaches. The only thing we're really worried about with an early third at this point is going to be the speed zerglings. So, you know, just making sure we don't have a 0 number of banelings is totally great. I think... Yeah, I'm just going to go for just a little slight smidge of a bit more. Also on the defensive route while moving out, like not losing track of the banelings. All this vision stuff that IdrA does is like super critical. The fact that he can always pull back with units at every point in time. This third queen, the third queen that is going to be heading towards this hatchery, you'll note was actually just chilling here by the ramp. Well, it's actually a little bit of a luck timing, but you can actually leave it chilling here by the ramp if this hatch gets delayed. Like, you don't really need to start wandering the queen over there right now. And having these 2 queens here just to block and make sure that we don't give up any of our position. It's those little teensy-tiny things that will help IdrA stay ahead. So actually, I think this is the ideal time to quit. In part 1, I would say nothing too exceptional or explosive happened from either player. I do like this move from IdrA just to focus on the gas heavily. The most important reason why, if we focus heavily on this gas with the pathogen glands, it's a lot easier for us to build drones. We can build too many drones and go, oh my gosh, he has a huge attack coming. And then we can use our infestors to stay alive while we build extra units. That's one thing that's very comforting about going for this gas first sort of thing. In part 2, we're really going to see some nice positional work from IdrA, parts 2 and 3. And that's, I think, where the real meat of things is going to occur. So let's hop to it. I'll be back in a sec. Weehaw!